You cannot hide forever, Luke. Give yourself to the dark side. It is the only way you can save your friends.
Pretty much everyone in this day and age should have some kind of side hustle. I mean, given all the platforms and that, everything that you can do from even just your cell phone, there's kind of no excuse to not have some secondary or tertiary source of income. And it doesn't have to be something dry like, social media or, advertising or doing tax returns on the side. You can take any talent that you have, any interest, any hobby, and you can really turn that into something. And that's why I'm talking to this really interesting, great guy, Alan Jones. Alan, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And what Alan does is he monetizes his ability to do voice impressions. And the way we met is when I first started this podcast, I wanted my intro to have a very specific sound. I was actually looking for the voice of Jarvis from the Iron Man movies, if anyone remembers that. And Alan had never done it before, but this is sort of a testament to his talent levels. He was able to hop on, go on YouTube or watch the movies, figure it out, and he did a pretty spot on impression. And by the way, thank you again for that. Before we jump into your story and how you got involved, I mean, this is sort of compulsory, Alan. I'm just going to have to ask you, can you drop on us one of your great impressions?
Oh, sure. So this is the most popular one I've put up in the last month. I've had maybe 7 or 8 buys on Fiverr just from this. This is Sir David Attenborough. He narrates all of the BBC nature documentaries. Antarctica, the Earth's coldest continent, the one that is most hostile to life. Here, 800 miles from the South Pole, it is 40 degrees below zero. Of all the millions of species of animals on Earth, only one can live here permanently. The Weddell seal. She can survive because she can dive below the ice.
If I wasn't holding a mic, I'd be applauding furiously. That's amazing. It sounds like a different person hopped on.
Thank you.
Alan, I mean, that's a talent that I'm sure a lot of people lack and just think is amazing. But let's get into your story. Let's get right into it. Tell us about why don't you first start off by telling us when you first realized that you had this ability or this talent for doing impressions?
So I grew up going to art school. I was a drama major for 10 years in Toronto in Claude Watson School for the Arts at Earl Haig Secondary School. And I didn't realize that doing impressions was an unusual thing. I thought everybody could do it. And I grew up a Star Wars nerd and Indiana Jones nerd. I'm youngest of 4 and grew up in the 90s. So I grew up on 80s culture. And so I've been doing impressions of Star Wars characters, scenes in my head as I'm walking down the street. I never realized there was anything to it. 2011, I watched a making of documentary on a Back to the Future video game, and they needed somebody to play a young Doc Brown. So they got this guy named James Arnold Taylor. And in the interview, he said he does impressions for a living because impressions is a niche. That blew my world open. I had no idea that people couldn't do what I could do and that I could actually make money doing it. And I looked him up. He plays Obi-Wan Kenobi in the Star Wars, Clone Wars TV shows. He does a bunch of other voices as well. He does something like 200 voices, and he's hosted Star Wars conventions. So that put me on the track to becoming a voice actor.
How did you know you were good? Have you received feedback you said you trained in drama, from teachers, fellow students, just colleagues? I guess I don't know how you would know.
I was always considered a very good actor, even in my grade, wherein we all did drama. Sorry, I'm from Canada, so I say drama. I had an agent when I was a kid, talent agent. I was in a couple commercials, and I was a photo double in the TV show, which is always a little bit more than the rest of my grade had. To me, it's just always, I'm used to it. It's normal, but I can tell only now that it's something that most people can't do.
You are very talented. I mean, when I found you on Fiverr, that's how we met. For those who don't know, Fiverr is a online platform that connects freelancers or entrepreneurs with folks who need certain talents that, I guess in the old days, you would go through an agent or a talent agency. It really just cuts out the middleman. Would you say that's a fair statement?
Yeah, I'd say Fiverr actually, I know people in the professional industry don't like Fiverr because they think it takes business away from professionals. But in my opinion, Fiverr creates its own market. Like, you're not paying $5 for professional stuff. The only people who are going to offer services on Fiverr are amateurs. And most of the work I've had is not, all the work I've had is not in commercials. It's like, can you wish my son happy birthday as Yoda? Stuff like that. So they create their own clientele, really. I don't think they're stealing work away from anybody in the professional industry.
And I want to get back into that as how it fits into your overall business. But let's just stay on the thread of your backstory. So you reached out to, and I forgot his name already, the gentleman who played Obi-Wan Kenobi in the Clone Wars.
James Arnold Taylor. No, I saw an interview with him, but I never reached out to him. I did make contact with other professionals in the industry, though, and they actually told me I had talent.
That must have been encouraging.
Yeah, that was. To hear it from not just my friends who don't know anything about the industry, hear it from professionals was good. Only thing is I lacked on professional quality recording.
Is that about equipment or about your manipulation of your microphone, your mic skills, I guess they call them?
Yeah, so it was originally both. They said, you have good talent. Now, and this is the way to get into the professional voiceover industry. And this I learned the hard way. After 4 years of trying to sneak in Hollywood through the back door using just my talent alone, I finally gave up. And then a friend of mine told me about Fiverr. That's how I got onto Fiverr. It was after I'd given up trying to become a voice actor. And then I made enough money off Fiverr to pay for professional training, which is the way that all the professionals said you have to go if you want to get professionally into the industry. So I've been doing that for the past 2 years.
So, well, that's very interesting. So you said you were trying to become a professional voice actor before you jumped on Fiverr. Had you landed any paid work before Fiverr?
No, never.
Interesting. So Fiverr was really your first dollar that you made. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I'm dying to know, what was the first gig that you, and by the way, for users who don't know, gigs are the sort of jobs or tasks that you offer. What was the first gig that you offered as a voice actor on Fiverr?
I grouped a bunch of my impressions together. I think it was a Darth Vader voice, so it must have been under a group of Star Wars voices.
Naturally.
So the Darth Vader, I mean, you can't ask me to do that now. That one requires editing if you want to hear it done well. Now I add a little echo to make the voice sound robotic, and that's one of my better ones, actually. But I can't do it live.
You mentioned that you had always had a sort of repertoire of different voices. How did you begin to call that down to, hey, these are the ones that are like rock solid, really good stuff that I should be getting paid for?
Initially, I would run them by other people. And then I got a good enough sense myself on whether the voice was an accurate impression or not. What is actually important when doing this, you record the voice until you think it sounds very good, a good duplicate. And then you go away for a while, take a day or something, and come back and listen to the voice again. It can sound drastically different after a day. It's so unusual. Sometimes after a day, I'm like, wow, this is a great recording. I sound exactly like him. I come back to it a day after, I'm like, this is terrible. What was I thinking? And vice versa. Like, I didn't think my Jarvis was too good at first when I sent it to you. I listened to it after, I'm like, yeah, you know what? It's not bad.
With voices, let's take the Jarvis example. I asked you to read lines that some of them were sort of plucked from the movies, and some of them were very different because they sort of suited what I needed. Is it your experience that reading lines that are, from the movies or that the actor has written, or the original actor has spoken, is that easier to sort of find that right pitch? Or when you're doing original lines, how much harder is that?
It's a lot easier to do the voices, the words, the lines they say in the movie. Making it up, making my own lines up, saying lines that somebody else has me say that are not from the movie, or not even based off the movie. You just kind of go with the feel of how the character says his lines, like the intonation. There's a different, Liam Neeson has got one sort of intonation. It's different than the Sir David Attenborough. They emphasize different words. There's a tune. And this complaint I have had, actually. Sometimes the tune can sound too monotonous. Like I'm repeating the same tune over and over again. But that, like when I listen to it, that is the tune that I hear the actor saying in the movie over and over again. Part of it's about getting the accent, part of it's about saying it in the tune in which he would say it, and then also making it sound not so monotonous. Yeah, there's really 3 steps when doing new lines.
You grew up trained in the arts, in dramatic arts.
Regular drama, regular theater, yeah.
And you sort of realized you've always had a repertoire of sort of characters or voices.
Yeah, even in high school, in drama majors, whenever they needed somebody to do like an English accent or an Irish accent, they would get me to do it. I didn't realize it was because nobody else could do it. I just thought I did it better than everybody else. I didn't realize it was unusual.
That's really cool. And then you had this turning point where you saw a video or an interview, and you realized that there are folks out there who are sought after to do voices for video games or for other professional scenarios, yeah?
Yeah. Even this area, though, is such a small world within the voiceover world itself. Most voiceover work I would use my regular voice for. It's advertisements and television commercials and radio commercials. It's not doing impressions of other characters. That's reserved for people like James Arnold Taylor.
So then you pursued that once you discovered that was career possibility, but it didn't quite work out for the first go around. Is that correct?
Right. For the first 4 years.
And that's when you discovered Fiverr. were able to generate a nice little income. And we'll get into those details in a moment. And you reinvested that in yourself. Is that right? By using that money to do voice training?
Yeah, that's right.
And what happens next? What happens after you've done that reinvestment in yourself and have invested in the voice training?
I think I'm going to have to give up Fiverr. My voice coach does not like Fiverr. She's a professional and she thinks just for the sake of my career in 5 years from now, nobody should be on Fiverr. She said originally, even 20 years ago, she's been in this business a long time. She said, as a voice talent, you could have maybe 3-4 jobs a year and make a living at voice acting because it would pay so well. Then people started being willing to do voiceover work for less money and less money and less money. And now it's hard to make it as a professional voice talent, even doing a few advertisements per month. So I think to honor her, once I become professional, I'd have to get off Fiverr.
Are you still seeking your first professional paid voice acting job?
Yes. I've had stuff which put me on IMDb, but that was it.
Were those impressions or were those general voiceover work?
Somebody asked me just to try an interesting voice for an anime. That was it.
Before we jump into talking about your Fiverr business, although, understanding that it's something that is short-lived, that will be ending soon, would you be so kind as to share another great impression with our audience?
Sure. This is one that I've very popular character from this year, the Black Panther. The Black Panther has been the protector of Wakanda for generations, a mantle passed from warrior to warrior. Now, because your friend murdered my father, I also wear the mantle of king. So I ask you, as both warrior and king, how long do you think you can keep your friend safe from me?
That is outstanding. And I know exactly which lines those are. I love Civil War. I just saw an article, this is kind of off topic, about how Chadman Boswick chose that accent. I don't know if you heard this story. They originally, or the directors, I think it's Kevin Feige, I think he's the head of creative at Marvel's Cinematic Universe. He wanted a traditional English accent, sort of very imperialistic. But the actor Chadwick Boseman was vehemently against that because, once you set the accent for Wakanda, that's it. For the next however many movies involve Wakandans, that's what the accent, you can't really change it. So they instead chose, I think it's some sort of, do you know what it is? It's a South African dialect. I'm not really sure what that accent is. Do you have any idea?
Yeah, no, it's something African. I don't know.
But yeah, he was like dead set against using a traditional British accent.
No, I think you made the right choice.
I think it had some sort of imperial undertones, and Wakanda was supposed to be about like not having fallen under the imperial purviews, something along those lines. I don't know. All right, so let's talk about the business side. And again, you mentioned that Fiverr is something that you're trying to wean off of, but for anyone else who might be on the opposite end of the spectrum and thinking about getting started, let's really like share your knowledge and your experience with them, if you don't mind.
So back when I started Fiverr 2015, it was really just a place for amateurs. Now I know, and I sold a lot of Morgan Freeman impressions and Darth Vader impressions, and I noticed in the past month or so that I haven't sold any of those in about a year. So I looked on Fiverr myself and found out there's tons of people selling very good quality Morgan Freeman and Darth Vader impressions and Liam Neeson impressions, other kinds of impressions that I do. So I realized Fiverr has become a place where people sell better quality things than they did back in 2015. And if I want to continue to take money at this, I can make better money than I have been making, but I have to also branch out and not just sell. I can't have my gig just be a group of voices. So now I sell specifically the Sir David Attenborough. And once I did that, like I said, I put that one up a month ago. I've got 8 sales on that one in a month, which is great. And that was the first impression I did. The Morgan Freeman started selling again as well once I made that an individual gig. So you have to know how to advertise and keep up with your competitors on Fiverr now. It's more difficult because it's more mainstream.
I feel like your Black Panther would sell well. Have you posted that one?
I did. That one hasn't got any buys yet. It got buys maybe 6 months ago, back when it was grouped with Marvel impressions.
How did you first discover Fiverr? How did you stumble upon that? So you had already discovered the idea of getting paid for doing voice and voice impressions. How did you first find Fiverr, I guess?
I was making a bunch of amateurish demo reels that I was emailing out to talent agencies in Toronto, New York, and LA. And I wasn't hearing anything back from any of them. I live in the old city of Jerusalem, and I'm involved in an organization that has a branch that produces student films. And I was told to go to them and ask them if they needed any voiceovers. So I went there and they said they don't they would use me if something ever came up, and they actually did use me a few times. But they had this free recording studio that they told me I could use, and the guy who ran that place, he said, you should go on Fiverr. That was the first time I ever heard of Fiverr.
Was that your only platform, or did you explore, I think back then it was Elance and Upwork, some of the other ones, or are you exclusive to Fiverr?
I'm really bad at understanding how all this stuff works. I did start up profiles on, I think it's called Upworks or something, and the other one, I don't remember the names of any of these. I started profiles and then I just never pursued them.
Okay, for the listeners, let me just give some background. These are all websites, let's call them, that are platforms, sort of like, I guess you would call it like an eBay type or a Craigslist type of a thing. I'm a little more sophisticated than that, but sellers of services will post what they're offering, whether it's writing, voice, music, design, graphic design, things like that. And then entrepreneurs or any other buyers will similarly come on and, sort of pick and choose what suits their business needs. And by the way, Alan, I agree. Fiverr is much more user-friendly than some of the other ones. For folks who don't know, is there any cost for signing up with Fiverr from your side as a seller?
No.
And same from the buyer side. If you want to buy a voice gig from Alan or any other gig, there's no purchase price or there's no cost for signing up for an account. So how does Fiverr make money? What is their business structure with regard to you as a seller?
They take 20% commission from sellers, and I believe they charge 20% on top of what the sellers charge commission to the buyers. So they're taking from both sides.
I don't think it's 20% on my side.
It's about 17 last time is that right?
I'll have to look that up. I'll add those to the show notes, but I do some fairly expensive sound editing for this podcast, which can be like in the $50, $60 range. And I don't think it works out to 20%. Maybe it scales down once you go above certain dollar amounts.
I remember buying something for $100 off Fiverr. It was the only thing I ever bought, and it ended up being $117.
And so what do you get for that 20% commission from Fiverr? What is Fiverr doing for you?
Allowing me to sell my services on their website.
So it's a pretty popular platform. There's going to be a lot of entrepreneurs and other solopreneurs on there looking for services. Is that right? About right?
Yeah.
I enjoy the structure of how they have your gig pages. I have never sold on there on Fiverr. How is it from your point of view, setting up a gig page and an offering? Is it pretty easy to use? Yeah.
It's easy. The only thing they changed something about the pricing recently, where they have a 3-tiered system now: premium, basic. I don't remember the name of the other one. I don't know how that works. I tried to figure it out once and I couldn't get it. So I used the old method of charging people. Just if you want extra stuff on it, I charge you extra money and that's it. It doesn't come in a package with background music or a package with a slideshow like in my demos. It's just a voice, and if you want music on top of that, I just charge you extra. And if you want video on top of that, I just charge you extra, and that's it.
So that's your, I guess, technology cost, getting on the platform and the commission Fiverr takes for connecting you with a buyer. But let's talk about any other costs that you have, because we kind of touched on that before. Tell me about your microphone and other, I guess, sound equipment setup.
So about a year after I started on Fiverr, one of my friends in the old city of Jerusalem put me in touch with someone he worked for who runs a radio station in Lakewood, New Jersey called Kol Barama. And they were looking for someone to read the advertisements on the radio station. It's a non-for-profit radio station, so they can't air real advertisements, paid advertisements by Coors Light or Disney or whatever. They can only air messages from the sponsors, so they have to record them themselves. And they don't want to do it. They're a nice elderly couple. He wants somebody with a strong voice to announce the advertisements. So I was put in touch with him, and I've been doing all their advertisements for the past 2.5 years. So he gave me all of his old recording equipment at home to work with when I do Fiverr stuff. The microphone, it says SP on it. I'm really not sure what the brand is. And the preamp is by Behringer.
That sounds like a good one.
It looks like XENYX 302 USB. And this is my travel mic. I'm traveling right now in Toronto. In Israel, I have he gave me an even better preamp.
Are you a technophile? Can you explain for the listeners what exactly a preamp is, what it does at least?
No, actually I can't. He'd be able to. He's good with technology.
Sure, I can give it a whirl. I'm sure somebody's going to jump on and troll me and say, that's not exactly what a preamp does. But if you plug the mic directly into your recording device, it'll work. But a preamp would strengthen the signal of the sound so that you can have much more leeway when you edit the sound after recording. I think that's what it does for you. What about soundproofing or your sort of, I guess you would call it studio setup? Do you have anything like some people have that sort of, for folks who are listening who don't know, acoustics and noise or sound quality can be a real issue. I live in Manhattan, so I have to have a very specific kind of mic that won't pick up the background street noise or fire sirens or, random yelling people that happens in Manhattan. Some other people will set up sort of a box or a booth with the foam wafflers, foam padding to really, really keep the acoustics down. Do you have any setup like that for yourself?
Yeah, I do that.
What have you got set up for yourself?
This is all stuff I've found. This is like a leather couch cushion that I gutted, and I took the foam cushioning out from the center, and I just spent a few afternoons one week cutting holes in it or cutting indents in it, and I put it up behind the computer. And then my friend gave me stuff to put on foam with designs on it to put on the walls behind me. And so it's amateurish, but it actually sounds very good. My voice coach, she started sending me professional auditions, and I wasn't sure I could produce good quality. So I had her listen to one, and she said it is good quality.
What about editing? Do you edit yourself, or do you have somebody do that for you?
I edit myself. I use Audacity. I've become quite a professional, actually, at Audacity. I mean, to do, the Darth Vader and the Kylo Ren and all these people have different, slightly, different variations on echoes and reverberations and stuff. And I played around with it a lot, and I've gotten pretty good at it.
Jarvis had a pretty good Was that something that required editing?
Yeah, that's right.
It had that sort of tinny or echoey robotic quality. It was great.
Produced by an Echo.
Last section, I'd like to talk to you about your advice for anyone who's thinking about taking a talent or a hobby and pursuing, monetizing that. But before we do, can you favor us with one more last impression?
Sure. Are you a Lord of the Rings fan?
I am not, but I know everyone else is, so please.
I was going to do Gollum. He's one of my best.
Smeagol. Why do you cry, Smeagol? Coleman hates us. He must have tricked us. I told you he was tricksy. No, he must have hurt us. He must as a friend. He must have betrayed us. No, not his business. Leave us alone. Filthy, tricksy little hobbitses. They stole it from us. My precious!
I really, really wish we could have been on a video call because I wish I was watching you while you were doing these impressions. By the way, we don't do video because doing audio only helps keep the sound quality nice and crisp for the listeners. Folks out there who are maybe, everyone tells them that their cookies are the best, or they have a great flair for calligraphy, or, anything else that, under the sun where somebody has a talent that they enjoy doing and everyone tells them that they're quite good at it. What is your advice for somebody like that? How should they decide if it's just a hobby or if it can be something more?
I think you should look up what it takes to become professional. So I can't tell you what it takes to become a professional cookie maker. You brought up cookies. I don't know, to get your recipe, let's say, into in mass production and into stores. I don't know what that would take, but in the voiceover industry. So I found out that it would take professional training that costs $2,500, and then a demo reel that costs another maybe $1,500 American. And then you have to start just sending out auditions, trying to get work for a year. You're going to send out a whole lot of auditions and not hear anything back. And then once you have finally gotten some work, then you can go to a talent agent and say, see, I'm already a moneymaker. You're going to want me on your side. And then they're going to sign you. It's not like when I was a child actor and they kind of just have to take a chance on you. And then they send you out on auditions and hopefully you get work. So I take all that. That's a lot of work. And voice actors told me, if you can do anything else for money, do that and do voices on the side for fun. It's only if you're not going to be happy doing anything else should you make voice acting a full-time profession.
Is that where you fall?
No, I could do it on the side. But that's why I look at it. I have a different approach to it. So I look at all that it takes, and I do have time to do that in my spare time. I weigh the reward against the effort it takes. And this concept, I think you can apply to any business you're in. And the reward for me is if I get a role in a Star Wars TV show, that would be my childhood dream come true. That would be totally worth everything that the thousands of dollars and the thousands of hours that I'd spent on this, becoming professional and finally getting that job.
What about Star Wars video game? Is that enough?
Good enough. I would love to. I think I do. Not to brag. I think I do a better Admiral Akbar and a better Count Dooku than the guys that they currently have, and a better Yoda than the guys they currently have. I would love to take over one of those three roles.
Akbar has lines. The only line I know from General Akbar is, "It's a trap."
There's quite a few lines in Return of the Jedi, but I imagine they're bringing him into the new TV show, which is going to be about the rebellion's navy. So it has to do with pilots. So he's the admiral of the navy. So I imagine he's in it.
I think that's great advice. Weighing the amount of effort and time, and money, because there can be an investment depending on what you're doing versus the reward, and it doesn't have to be monetary reward. I mean, it sounds like a Star Wars gig would be. And by the way, if you land a Star Wars gig, please let me know, and so we can all celebrate. That would be awesome.
I will. Thank you.
So it can be hard for somebody who's new to something to evaluate that properly, because the beginning is always the hardest, right? Setting up a Fiverr account, getting the equipment. I mean, those things are amortized over years.
Also, you're going to have delusions of grandeur, like you're going to think that you're going to, like I did, like you're going to be able to make it with just your talent alone. Oh no, this whole training thing applies to other people. No, there's no trying to sneak in the back door. You have to pay for professional training. You have to do it the right way.
I know you're personally in the process of exiting Fiverr, but for other folks, how good is Fiverr as a platform for testing the waters?
Yeah, so my voice coach said, I told her that I'm able to pay for her because of Fiverr and the radio job that I have in Kolbarama. And she said, if you're able to test your skill, and if you enjoy it to the degree, like you found out from Fiverr that you enjoy it to the degree that you want to pursue it professionally, Fiverr served its purpose.
It certainly seems like a very ripe testing ground. It's easy to enter. There's plenty of buyers out there who will tell you if you're good or not, right? I mean, that's what marketplaces do. And while you're doing it, you're getting paid.
I've only had a few cancellations. Yeah, most people are very happy with the finished product. So it's see how good you are and how much you like it, and whether you want to actually put in the effort now to achieve the reward that you see happening.
Alan, that's all I have today. How can folks find you if they'd like to order? Again, I know you're signing off of Fiverr soon, but until you do, how can folks find you?
I know it's ironic. I said I'd be signing off Fiverr. I actually just expanded, like I told you. I started putting additional gigs. I have now 20 gigs on Fiverr for specific voices. So I don't know how quickly I will be going away. Maybe by next year, this time I should probably be off it completely.
You heard it here first. This is like a limited time offer. If you would like to avail yourself of Alan's awesome talents, you need to do it now.
You can find me. My name is Alan Jones. Alan is spelled like a last name. I got it from Woody Allen. He's my favorite stand-up comic. Jones is from Indiana Jones, my favorite film character.
And I will make sure to include in the show notes a link to Alan's, I guess it's a seller's page, yes, on Fiverr?
Yeah, I think it's just fiverr.com. Is it just /Alan Jones YM? There's a YM at the end of it. Oh, no, you know where you can hear all my voices? I have like 150 impressions up now at soundcloud.com/Alan Jones YM.
Awesome. I think I listened to that before working with you. So yes, that's actually a great resource, and we'll make sure to include that as well. Well, one more thing. On the off chance that George Lucas or whoever's in charge is listening, how would they get in touch with you for professional voice work?
You can be in touch with my voice coach that I think is the best in the industry. She would decide if I'm ready. Her name is Nancy Wolfson. A little plug for her. She's done so much for me. And my email address is alanjonesym@gmail.com.
Alan, thanks again for jumping on. I really appreciate it. This has been a very interesting conversation. Your life has been very interesting, so thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you for having me.
Everyone else, make sure to hit that subscribe button and visit us at anthonyspark.com to join our email list to get all the updates and any special offers directly in your inbox. Thanks for listening. Take care.